Hello. This is the NBA DFS Daily Build, December 21st, 2023. Let's see, 6 games tonight. DK and FanDuel different slates. DK is excluding the 2 late games for reasons unknown. So 6 games all starting within an hour of each other. On the main slate, we have some injury news already. Donovan Mitchell out for the second night in a row for the Cavs. Giannis was upgraded to a probable, so he's going to play for the Bucks, we think. Zion questionable for the Pelicans. Valanciunas questionable for the Pelicans. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George questionable for the Clippers. AD, doesn't matter. AD on the FanDuel slate, questionable. Miles Turner, Jalen Suggs, Killian Hayes, Andrew Nembhard, and Jalen Smith are all questionable as well. Those have been ruled out include Lauri Markkanen, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, THT, Shaedon Sharpe, Jordan Clarkson, and various other Utah players. So let's just go ahead and kick things off with that first game. Utah at Detroit. Detroit favored despite a 24-game losing streak. As mentioned, Utah without several key players, second half of back-to-back. Kevin McRoberts, who are you liking on the Utah side?
I mean, potentially I like everybody, just because they're really shorthanded. They were already going to be shorthanded even before you take Markkanen out. And who is the other guy that is out? That
THT.
wasn't already out? Yeah, THT. Okay, so that's a lot of usage that you're getting rid of. And these guys did see price hikes a little bit, but they're still kind of too cheap if they're going to have these roles for an entire game. But outside of Sexton, they don't project particularly well, which is a little bit troubling. But I say everybody's in play. My priority would be Sexton, and then I'm looking at maybe one or two of other of these guys if things break just right.
John Collins is wildly expensive. 7,200 is out of control. Not even projected for 30 minutes. RG has Sexton, Agbaji, Fontecchio, Collins, and Kessler projected to start. It means Olynyk off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Chris Dunn is okay for 5'8", but again, not that cheap.
Right.
Kessler is probably the standout for me among the non-Sexton guys. Sexton could easily get like 40 actual basketball points in this game. Quite expensive, but great spot, and just should see all the usage for that team.
Yep.
Detroit, meanwhile, Killian Hayes questionable. Durant is still out. They are otherwise pretty healthy, which means they have a deep rotation of shitty NBA players. Utah is a good matchup. Detroit favored, as I said. Anyone standing out here?
I mean, Cade Cunningham obviously offers the most upside. You have Bogdanovic, who just will shoot at will and do absolutely nothing else. But I don't really love his price or anything. But yeah, nobody really stands out. Jaden Ivey's cheap, but will he play 30 minutes? I don't know.
Doesn't seem like it.
No. So if I'm going to do a run back in this game, I would probably just pay for Cade, but I don't even know if that's totally necessary.
I think Cade's the one, but he's 8'6".
Right.
Not a discount, really. I want to like Asar Thompson, but no one projects for even 30 minutes except for Cade or Bogdanovic. So
right.
It's not a bad spot. It's just hard to kind of parse that team with so many moving pieces. Next up, Pelicans. Oops, I deleted the banner. Pelicans at Cleveland. Cleveland down 3 starters. New Orleans potentially down 2. Pel's still favored on the road here. Valanciunas questionable. Zion questionable. I see Herb Jones with a Q tag. Is that accurate or is he probable?
Last I saw, he was questionable. He is.
Yeah, he's questionable.
He's questionable. They're all sick with a non-COVID, but definitely COVID.
Yeah, right.
They always say non-COVID. It's just bullshit. It's COVID. They're all sick.
Yeah, everyone in the league at this point is sick.
Yeah.
It's a better matchup than advertised just because Cleveland's shorthanded a little bit, but
Yeah.
if they all play, there's really not much that stands out. I guess Zion for 7.6 is a little cheap, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I honestly, they all have pretty good prices, like you said. Regardless, if they all play, they're all on the table. If any of these guys are out, though, I mean, CJ, Ingram, both vault up to their projections spike like crazy. Then you're looking at Najee Marshall being potentially viable, Dyson Daniels. It just depends on who's in or who's out. So
yeah, there's not much use in really breaking it down because there are
no,
3 starters
this is just
questionable.
a
So
situation to keep an eye on.
Cleveland, though, we know what's happening. Mitchell's out again. We saw Craig Porter start over him last night. Only 24 minutes, but still cheap. Good per minute guy. Potential for more minutes tonight. They have him at 26 at RG. Sam Merrill went bananas last night. I'm not sure about that happening again, but good shooter, good role. Cheap salary, 4,500. He shot 9 for 16, including 8 for 14 from 3, which is just nonsense. But again, for 4 or 5 on a slate that currently has limited value, I don't think it's the worst thing.
No, not at all. Yeah, Merrill feels like a little bit chasing. I like Craig Porter a lot. I think all the other main caps are in play. I don't know if I really want to go dumpster diving for Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade, but Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, Max Strus, Craig Porter, they all look good. Merrill is fine. He's a good price for a bench guy who's going to have the green light. I would prefer he's starting, and I don't exactly expect him to shoot like 75%. Although I feel like I might be wrong, but I feel like the Pels like allow the most 3-point attempts per game, and they're like bottom 10 in 3 points made allowed. I'm pretty sure something like that. It's pretty close, but so it's a good matchup for the Cleveland outside shooters, and they're all just gonna chuck. So yeah, everybody's in play. I would just pay attention to the starting lineup, and I wouldn't like force Merrill in, but he's obviously appealing because of the price.
What about Strus, 6,900?
He's fine.
Big minutes last night. It's pricey though.
It is a little bit pricey, but like I said, I think on the outside, the matchup obviously bodes very well for him in particular because he's going to shoot like 12 threes probably. And he hasn't really been that on lately, so this could be a bit of a blow-up game for him. And considering the amount of time he's on the floor, 6.9 isn't really that bad for the role he's going to be looking at. He's one of the more veteran guys here. Cleveland's going to want him, LeVert, Allen out on the floor more than any other guy that they have. So totally viable. I don't mind paying for him if I get to him, but I'm not going to force him.
Yeah, LeVert, again, a great play. 26 minutes last night, did quite well. It's more expensive by a little bit, but I'm more inclined to pay for him than Strus if I'm picking one of those mid-range guys.
It could come down to ownership too.
I think I would just prefer LeVert no matter what, honestly. Jared Allen for 75 feels quite steep.
Yeah.
Matchup's better if Valanciunas is out because the Pelicans are pretty bereft of any other centers at this point with Larry Nance also out, but 75 either way is a lot to be paying for Jared Allen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up here we have Indiana at Memphis. Highest total on the board, 247.5. Memphis favored by 2.5 over the struggling Indiana Pacers. Turner, Nembhard, Smith questionable. Second half back-to-back for them. I think. Yeah, they played last night, right?
I think so.
2 nights ago? Whatever. Don't see much here. This team
they
might
did.
be...
They played yesterday against the Hornets.
If they play again, if the questionable guys play, this team might be a fade for me.
I am just about there with you. Isaiah Jackson and Mathurin's prices came way up, so they don't look appealing whatsoever. The only guy is Halliburton. I mean, you can always argue for Halliburton, and this looks like it could be a pretty fun matchup. But if I'm going to pay that much, I might just come down to Ja or go up to Giannis.
I think Shea's my guy in that range, but we'll get there.
Shea is viable too.
Memphis, we have interest in Ja, like you said. 35 minutes in his first game of the season. Best matchup, one of the best matchups imaginable here. Should be no worse for the wear after being suspended. Vince Williams is a cheap guy. You can play again tonight. Not the best value, but shouldn't be that popular, I wouldn't think, once we get more value later on, presumably. And Jaren Jackson's fine as a tournament guy. Indiana allows tons of points in the paint. Jackson doesn't necessarily live in the paint, but this is a spot where he can feast, I think.
Yeah, I think that's more something that we're going to want to lean on for Ja, because I think he's just going to penetrate at will here. And while the matchup, and the prices aren't bad either, but the matchup suggests you can play anybody for Memphis. Ja is the only guy I'm really looking at.
Let's see. LA Clippers, second half of a back-to-back after beating Dallas last night in OKC. 6-point spread, Kawhi and Paul George iffy for them. This is another wait-and-see team, I think, isn't it?
Well, based off of the spread, I'm going to assume that a Clipper is going to be out. I wouldn't think it would be quite that thick if they were going to be in. So pick your poison, Kawhi or Paul George, maybe both. I don't know. But obviously, if either of them sits, James Harden still looks good, even though his prices come up. If they both sit, James Harden looks really good. It might be a major priority. And then obviously there's value with Norm Powell. Don't love the price, but he's going to have a big role. Either of those guys are out. And then Amir Coffey, who just keeps playing 39 minutes when he starts. His price went from 3.9 to 4.6. Don't love that, but that's still cheap enough on a slate that does not have a ton of value.
Right there with you. Russ and Zubats are over 7K, which is a lot for both guys. I guess Russ starts, might be playable if they're both out.
Right.
That's really the only scenario. Do like Norm Powell.
Sure.
Don't like Terrence Mann, that's for sure.
We've touched on Terrence Mann before. So I'm fine with that. I'm with you. He didn't do anything yesterday, so you've proven me wrong.
He's just an awful offensive player. That's just what it is. Let's see. OKC, fully healthy. No injuries of which to speak. 10-2 for Shea is quite cheap. Even in a subpar spot, I don't really know why he's that cheap. He averages like 1.6 points per minute. Great play. Chet Holmgren always looks too cheap. That's true again tonight. And otherwise, I don't see much here either, honestly.
Yep, agreed. SGA projects really, really well, and Chet is just totally fine. He is too cheap for his ceiling. Not exactly the best matchup down low, but that mid-range area where he's priced at isn't exactly tantalizing tonight. So Chet at 7.4 is not the worst place to land.
San Antonio at Chicago. Another team on a back-to-back is the Bulls, but they didn't have to travel. Spurs, Wemby will be back tonight. Vassell's questionable. I think I forgot to name him at the top. That's a big one. Wemby being back means these guys aren't the must-plays they were the other day, but Vassell being out would open up a lot of secondary usage behind Wemby.
Yeah, I mean, Wemby is the priority for me here. He's still way too cheap. He's a guy with that should be like 10K at this point. Projects extremely well. Really good spot. The Bulls do not rebound well at all, and Vooch isn't exactly scary down low. Not that he has to go inside to score anyways. Jeremy Sohan is probably the other guy that stands out just because if Vassell is out. If Vassell's not out, I'm not like super interested in him. But if Vassell is out, then he does look pretty good. I'd imagine his minutes and projections spike a little bit.
I think Branham is another one that would look better with Vassell out.
In theory.
Don't love it.
No.
But
he really just scores. I would much for 600 more. I'm doing Sohan if Vassell is out because Sohan's going to do other things. Branham might do absolutely nothing, and he's probably just going to score if he doesn't do anything at all.
Both are fine, I think.
Yeah, sure.
I guess you'd see where ownership shakes out on that one. Keldon Johnson seems a little steep, 72. Yeah, again, like there's like one or two guys per team on this slate, and then everyone else kind of just looks like shit.
Which makes it a little bit easier to map out a build, I think.
Yeah. Chicago looks intriguing, though. San Antonio is one of the best matchups of them all. Still no Levine for them. DeRozan, Kobe White, Vucevic, just like they did last night, look very good. Vuce didn't do anything last night, but San Antonio is a soft matchup, even for a big. Kobe White. What are your thoughts on Kobe
I
White?
mean, they're giving him the keys to the offense, man. He's out there the whole game, basically. He does whatever he wants, and more importantly, he's playing extremely well. He scores, he rebounds, he assists, he's doing everything. Having said that, you can play any of these three main bulls, and then everybody else is just kind of like whatever. Nobody else looks that appealing. Patrick Williams' price, come on, 6.5. I'm not doing that. And Caruso's even a little bit pricey. Great matchup, but I'm just looking at the main three guys here, and I'd probably go Kobe.
I think I'm leaning Kobe as well. What about Drummond? What if, say, Vooch gets 2 fouls in 2 minutes, and then Drummond has to play 20 off the bench, 4,800?
You have fun with that. I don't want to.
I don't hate it on a small-ish slate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously points per dollar, he is good, but that's averaging out over a long span of games here. He can also do pretty much nothing.
Last one is the worst one. Orlando at Milwaukee. Bucks are big 8.5 point favorites, 238 total. Not a bad total, but I don't know. These teams don't have much injury news. Orlando got Wendell Carter back last night. He promptly shat on my face.
Yeah.
Jalen Suggs and Joe Ingles are questionable. I suppose that's notable. Fultz is also out. So if
the
Suggs is out,
legend Joe Ingles, that is huge.
If Suggs and Fultz are out,
well, Cole Anthony looks really good then.
Yeah, he's 6'2". He's probably going to be the best play here.
And face shatting aside, Wendell Carter looks good. He's good. His minutes are only going to spike up.
I'm a little nervous of the back-to-back. Let's see what I think he played 23 last night.
I don't know. They kind of need him for any kind of resistance to Giannis.
He's a good price.
Honestly, I mean, Banchero and Wagner are fine, but the only guys that really stand out would be Cole and Wendell. And that feels gross, but they look okay. It's a good spot for them if they can keep the game close.
Cole's probably a priority if that happens.
Oh, yeah. If Suggs is out, yeah. I'd imagine. They probably still won't start him, though.
They probably won't, but he'd still play 30, I think, off the bench.
No, I'd like him a lot if that's the case.
Milwaukee, Giannis is going to play, likely, which really saps everything from this team because with him in, he and Dame look a little cheap, perhaps, but Orlando's not a good matchup. I don't know. I guess you can always make a case for both of them, but as priorities, I don't really see it.
I mean, Dame's price is nice, but I don't. Other than the price, I don't see it as a priority. It's not really a good matchup at all. But Giannis, if he's going to be 10% owned or less, sign me up for that. I mean, Giannis, it's not a really good matchup, but they're still at home. They can dictate the pace here. The Bucks can hum on offense, and he's got the best projection of the entire slate. So if people are going to gravitate towards SGA or John Morant, Giannis looks really good.
That's a good point. There's no Jokic or Embiid or anyone like that on this slate. So if Giannis is going to be under-owned, then certainly worth a shout in a tournament. So we're seeing chalk around Cleveland, just like we did last night. Porter and Merrill. I don't really think you want to fade Porter. Go ahead and lock him in there. I will hear the argument for fading Merrill. You laid it out earlier. He's scoring dependent.
Yeah, I would say he's kind of like a last guy in kind of thing. Like, I'm not going to start my core build with Merrill. I will absolutely start with Craig Porter, though.
If Merrill's going to be owned by half the field, the argument to fade is very obvious.
Yeah. That feels like a fish bite, doesn't it? It's a big recency bias play.
Yeah, like if he sucked last night, he wouldn't be 50% owned, right?
50, my God. Yeah, nope. Fading. Hard fade. That's
There
hilarious.
should be more popping up. I'm intrigued by New Orleans because, Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, these guys become close to priorities if Zion in particular is out. Even Herb Jones sitting, I think, might clear Trey Murphy as a really strong play.
What about Najee if Zion and JB are out? They don't even have any traditional
Yeah,
bigs.
Najee. Yeah,
He looks
I'd much
really
rather
good.
play any of them than 50% owned Sam Merrill.
That'll sort itself out. But yeah, I'm not playing Sam Merrill. I've already decided. That's crazy. Craig Porter, it's like Craig Porter good chalk, Sam Merrill bad chalk. You just have to take a stand on one of them, I think.
It's very clear. Like Porter's a really good kind of doer of things, and Sam Merrill does one thing, he does it well. But if the one thing doesn't go well, he doesn't do anything else. So
and by the
likely toast.
By the way, it's pretty arguable that Craig Porter's minutes stayed down yesterday because Merrill was shooting so well. If he doesn't come out and hit all his shots, they're probably going to play Porter more.
Right. Let's see. I suppose your top spend is Ja Morant.
My top spend is going to go between Wemby or Giannis because ownership seems to be gravitating towards either Ja Morant or SGA. So if that's where it's going to be, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Obviously, those guys are great plays. And Harden might also be that, he might factor into it too, depending on what happens here. But that's what I'm looking at. But what are you looking at for shooting guard? Sexton? Just plug him in?
LeVert really stands out to me. I think he's the one I would go first. I do love Sexton, but I'm fine with LeVert. Small forward, you got Vince Williams.
Bojan.
Yeah,
but if Bogdanovich is going to be chalky, I'm just going to – it looks like he's going to be at the moment. Vince Williams chalky too. Sohan, for now, is being overlooked. Might change if Vassell gets ruled out, but I think I'm going Sohan for now at small forward.
I think Fontecchio is worth a look.
Oh, sure.
I don't think we mentioned him, but minutes should be there. He's another shooting, scoring-dependent guy, but
Amir Coffey, obviously, if those guys are out for the Clippers.
Amir Coffey.
But for the sake of building out a core here,
Trey Murphy.
Who do you like the most?
It seems likely that at least one of those Pels sits, right? Are we hoping for that?
I would imagine so. I wouldn't be surprised if they all sat, to be honest.
I think Trey Murphy is the guy I want the most for 5'8".
Okay.
I think he has a ceiling. I'm not sure if the others have 50-point upside.
Nothing wrong with that.
Let's see, 6K left per. Probably need some value somewhere. I
Wendell
slid
Carter,
Wemby in
baby.
a power forward.
Wendell Carter center.
Yeah.
You could slide Wemby over to center and just not deal with, Wendell Carter tonight.
Yeah.
In that power forward, you have a few more options, I think.
I suppose if we're playing Murphy, that probably means Najee is also playable. So
yeah,
I think we can slide him in at 4-1.
That makes for an interesting build. So this is what I have coming off of our core here. I do have Sexton in it, so it's going to be a little bit different here. But I got Craig Porter, Colin Sexton, Trey Murphy, Najee, Wemby, LeVert, Coffey, and Chet. Can't hate it.
Not bad. No. Pretty balanced. Not really any dives. Najee's the deepest dive, but minute should be there if he's good to go.
I really like the idea of a really low-owned Giannis, and there's other good plays, but this also doesn't feel like you have to go chase a pricey guy on the slate. Wemby at 9K is fine as your stud because he can get you 50, 60 easy.
Right. Yeah, I think Wemby, I kind of think maybe you should bring him back with Kobe White if possible, just to kind of hope that both ceiling at the same time, but not a must.
That's not a bad idea because you could move it around a little bit to maybe fade a chalky Sexton. Because chalky Sexton at 7-7 obviously can go south. Sexton can still technically hit and score like 30 real points and then do like nothing else and get you like 35 fantasy points. So you could aim for that middle ground where, yeah, you like Sexton, but the price and just the way he plays doesn't actually make him as good of a play as he could be.
Yeah, and 7-7, it's not like we're getting him for free. He's not a total smash.
He's actually a pretty good fade if you think about it. And I hate that because he's like going to shoot a ton. You know, he's going to have a ton of usage, but he is a pretty scoring dependent guy.
I think we built it out pretty well here. Obviously, pending news, keep an eye on that over the next couple of hours. But anything else you wanted to add in before we close it out?
Only thing else to add is to like and subscribe. Help us out here, get the channel growing a little bit. And like Taylor said, keep an eye on the injury news and starting lineups in particular. And good luck. Thanks for tuning in.